guys are so funny. You're trying to get me to do this stupid shit. And
she just whispered, "I'm a bad bitch," for anyone who didn't hear. Stop. 420.
I'm lit at Disney.
And the kids asleep in the bath.
There we go.
A ball sack station.
That's what a business owner looks like.
Welcome to Tattoo Homewreckers. We're going to talk about... Ow, my knee hurts. If you don't watch this on YouTube, the reason I started off laughing is because we have our outdoor furniture set up inside right now to record this, because we are going to do an episode on Love is Blind and we need to be able to see our board. So we have moved again. But yeah, welcome to Tattoo Homewreckers, a podcast where we talk about tattoos, life, and everything between. I got it that time.
Good job.
Because I'm over here rubbing my knee.
Yes.
So my name is Lou. I'm here with my very best friend and one of my favorite people in the entire world. I only really have two favorite people, but it's okay.
That's not true. You love Michelle Obama.
I do. She is amazing. I guess, yeah, I have a lot, but like, I don't personally interact daily
with Michelle.
We
wish.
I don't. I'd be so scared. Yeah, that's like the person that's always on my list of like, if you could meet anyone, it's Michelle Obama.
Literally Leslie Knope. My name is Callie.
I would love to meet Hillary Clinton too, though.
Yeah.
I know it's like a divisive thing, but like, yeah, it is the like all the women on Leslie Knope's list.
All women in politics are examined under such a crucial eye that even feminists or claim to be feminists have such horrible shit to say about them. And I have like a specific mutual online that like, you know, their whole vibe is like, she's very punk rock, but she just constantly talks shit about politicians not doing anything. And I'm like, but you're not helping. So that's where I stand on that.
If that's the case, get into politics yourself.
Get into politics yourself. If you say they're all evil, then you become the good that you want to see. But alas, none of the people who are complaining about it do it. So anyways, that's just my little thing to say right now. This is not what we're going to talk about, but it is kind of aligned. We're here to talk about Love is Blind.
The newest season, which is season 6. So spoilers ahead.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't like want to watch it, cool. Stay for this whole thing. If you haven't watched it yet, to be fair, we have not finished all of it. I think we are 2 episodes away from the...
Yeah, from the finale.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then that means we're 3 episodes away from the reunion. So obviously, we are just talking about our opinions. We don't know these actual people. People can be different off camera.
We also understand that these are characters curated by television. So again... they can be taken out of context. And so we are going based off of what we have seen. It is not an actual attack or judgment on the like individual themselves, because we do not know them individually. And if you know me, you know I truly believe that you never actually know someone completely, because we are still getting to know ourselves every day.
Period.
And you only know what other people show you.
And if you know me, I love video editing, have a passion for it, and a lot of this stuff does get cut out. I can't imagine these editors are working full fucking time on each of these episodes. Like I can't imagine all the raw footage that they just have to go through to find these shots. So a lot of the shots that we see obviously don't tell the whole story. So this is just what we know from what we've seen.
Yeah, from their interpretation of the story they want to tell.
Yes, but I will say this has got to be one of my favorite Love is Blind seasons because the women are incredibly centered around making sure that their husband or future husband will be on the same path as them politically. And that's huge.
Yes.
We have not seen a Love is Blind season where people are openly talking about politics.
Yes.
We've had seasons before in the past. I think this previous season, it was still centered around religion, and religion was super important to people.
And there was more race discussions.
Yes.
Can I just add in really fast? I really feel like there's not a whole lot of reality TV shows that you and I necessarily enjoy. We do like to watch Trixie and Katya like review them, because that's like the most fun. But for the most part, a lot of them I personally find are very vapid.
Yeah.
And Love is Blind was kind of getting there where you're like, okay, it's just the same structure over and over again.
Yeah.
And the last 2 seasons, I feel like in particular, they've really done a good job to be like, you know what? We're going to actually discuss like what matters in this moment and like dig in. And don't get me wrong, I understand it's still reality TV.
For sure.
And there's still drama and there's still like all that shit. But they have been focusing more on like staying like relevant with the times.
Absolutely.
As opposed to just like, it's a bunch of hot people on an island that are all going to fuck each other.
Yeah. And I think because, I don't know, they've done a really good job making sure that this is marriage. So obviously you don't want to go into it knowing that you're going to divorce this person, and having these conversations around interracial relationships and religion and now politics, huge. Great season. This is the season that y'all should watch if you're, I don't know, curious about Love is Blind. This season is dope. But with that being said,
what I was going to say about that, what I personally wish, because I know you can buy their little like wine glasses and I know you can buy their little gold wine. What I want is the fucking notebook. Because previously I'd never seen them where they show that there are questions in the notebook. And when they're like, let's get on to the next section. And bitch, I would love that notebook, because those questions that like they were reading off are very like good questions to ask when getting into a relationship with someone.
Yes.
Now, obviously people can evolve, people can change. Like I started out very much in the like trad wife, like that was the only type of marriage I knew.
Totally.
So it was very conventional. I would drive down to Florida to do his laundry, which, you know, to be clear, we didn't have like in apartment units because the apartment was so small. And we were also poor kids, so we couldn't afford to buy a washer and dryer at that point. And so I would have to carry the laundry baskets while he's just playing video games all day. And I was in that moment very happy with that until I realized that I wasn't. That I was like, hey, I have been taught my whole life to just be of service to men.
Yep.
And that like my only value is to be of service. So of course I'm going to cook for you, even though I fucking hate cooking, and I'm gonna clean. I do enjoy cleaning. And I'm gonna do your laundry and I'm gonna carry it. Whereas now, don't get me wrong, I love carrying shit, but like it was, I would say the equivalent of about 4 blocks away. Like it was fucking far to get to the like laundry unit for the like apartment complex. And it was not a fun fucking walk. And now I would be like, hey, dude, I'm happy to like go take it down there, but you're going to carry it. And then you're going to carry it back and I'll sort the laundry. So it is about like that area of, hey, I was definitely in that traditional role, and watching these like women like straight up be like, yeah, no, I don't like cooking. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Advocate for themselves and
be
for the life
people
that they want to live too. Advocate for the life that they want to live, and advocate for the partner that they want to have, and very distinctly put their foot down, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to watch. And it's also a really interesting season as far as all the characters go. I just realized like there are certain people on the show, and we'll get into that soon, that are direct like foils of each other. And it's so refreshing to watch a stark difference between a man who prescribes to toxic masculinity and the patriarchy and has no idea, versus a man who is very coherent about masculinity and comfortable in expressing himself. It is great. And then again, props to all the women for asking these hard questions. I just like want to say one of the women on this show, her name is Sarah. If you see me looking over, it's because we have a whole whiteboard.
Yes.
When we watch Love is Blind, we love to take notes.
Yeah. So we just rented a studio space. And it used to be a little office space. So there was a whiteboard in there.
Yep.
And so I walked down to the shop, grabbed the whiteboard, came back, dismantled the whole thing because it had not been properly cleaned. And obviously, if we're going to hang it on our wall, I would like it to be cleaned.
Totally.
And then we installed it on the wall because it's a fun like place to just doodle and stuff and to write notes for ourselves. But more importantly, right now, we need this for Love is Blind, because if you have heard us long enough, you know that we originally got into Love is Blind because, can I tell a story?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Tell it.
We were in South Carolina doing a guest spot, and I was
dope.
like showing her South Carolina and like introducing her to the culture of the South, because that is a huge like pillar of who I am as a person. And the Airbnb we were staying in it was like designed for like workspace as well. So they had, a printer, and they had like a little conference room that was also the dining room. So they had a giant whiteboard. And so we had heard people be like, oh my gosh, Love It Blind is so good. So we watched it, and as we do breakdowns of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Callie started writing all of her favorite quotes and all the breakdowns of the characters and who got with who on the whiteboard.
What happened, like what the drama was, like
yes.
stuff that we found inexcusable and stuff that we found interesting, shady.
And the stuff that makes that person like a great like person for television, where it is the like Sarah with her like asking very like pointed questions around like, no, this stuff matters. This is a boundary for me.
Having the bravery, Sarah asked, one of the first questions that she asked that I loved is like, hey, you know, my sister is gay and I want to know like how you feel about that. How do you feel about equality? And another follow-up question was, well, how would you feel if your future child came out as, you know, LGBTQ plus, right? Like, what is your reaction for that? And I'm just going to say, again, here's where spoilers come in. So she gets with Ben, and Ben's original reaction, he is religious. He says that he believes in equality, but refuses to say the word gay. So what I've noticed from his dialogue is like, one of the quotes I have written on the board is like, yeah, no, I do believe that people like that. That's a direct quote. Deserve like equality. And I'm like, but you can't say the word gay? Is that like like that's a red flag for me?
I'm going to back up a tiny bit because that just made me realize.
Yes.
So this season, because we are, you know, a little bit late to watching because obviously we've got a ton of stuff going on. We did realize that like we saw a couple spoilers and I had seen a spoiler where someone was like, hey, I have to say no because I realized last night, the night before our wedding, that we voted completely differently. And so I was like, oh shit, like these like dudes are coming on and a bunch of them are very MAGA coded. So I was like, we're going to play a game of MAGA or not.
Yeah.
And so on the whiteboard, we wrote that and we did it based off of first impressions of like what they first showed us in the pods, like the very first episode where they're just like coming in and you're just starting to get to know them. So we played that game. Yeah. And Ben was one of the first people that we were like MAGA as fuck. Yeah. Because the way that he was carrying himself was very like the toxic masculinity, like that's it.
He was very slippery for me too. I think the way that he answered all of her questions, again, like first he dodged the equality answer. Like he didn't even really directly give her an answer to that. And I think he spent that night realizing that it wasn't the answer she wanted to hear. So then on their next date, he wanted to clear the air and said that, yeah, people like that, which again is very weird language to use. Yes. If you can't say the word gay without being uncomfortable, I would have to say that you've got a lot of work to do on your journey. Yeah, you aren't okay with gay people. You're a fucking bigot and a hypocrite and a piece of shit. There's still some phobias there, right? You're scared of gay people? That's stupid. I see, and I don't like that term of like phobia because you're not scared of them. You're just a bigot. You're just a bigot. Totally. I will say as well, he uses a line where he talks about how he prefers faith over religious. Yes. And it was interesting because Caboose has been watching this with us as well, which if you have a husband that will watch this shit with you and he is like emotionally intelligent, it's dope because we'll talk about someone else in a second, but he was the person that pointed out that the guy was negging. Yeah. Well, you and I were just yelling at the TV because we watch Love is Blind like it is sports. It's our Super Bowl, bro. Yeah. We're screaming. We are because it's a lot of like emotional like intelligence like while we're watching it. So we're doing breakdowns and then we're also able to like adjust and be like, oh, so I perceive this person as this, but I think that's my like wound around that. But he used this line, which is, I prefer the term faith instead of religious, which does come from like one of the creators of the Heritage Foundation. So for me, understanding like that side of MAGA and like how they're like, oh, we don't want to use the word religious because that makes us sound like religious extremism, which we have stated that against every brown religion. And so we don't want to use the word religious because we created a sense in this like conservative party that this is a negative thing if someone is overly religious. So we're going to use the word faith. And so I did have the insider scoop of like, I know where that quote comes from, which means you are MAGA as fuck. Yeah, we already had like red flags flying from the moment that like Ben had like 15 minutes of screen time. Yeah. Like he's MAGA for sure. And with Sarah, we actually thought that she was going to be Republican as well. You did. You did. Well, I did because I saw her face and I was like, oh my God, she looks like the girlfriend from Get Out.
Which
and
she
then
does.
you were like, well, I don't know. I don't think she's MAGA. I feel like she might be Republican, though. But then she came out and asked, like, again, questions about queer people. She asked a great question. She's from Minneapolis, and George Floyd was a really big deal. It should be everywhere, but obviously it hit home for her because it happened at home. And she asked Ben how he felt about Black Lives Matter. And Ben, of course, again, he MAGA as fuck, right? And here's the thing, we don't know yet. Again, keep in mind, we have not finished the season yet.
Yeah.
But he had said that he wants to stay out of it. And she had come back, and this is where I love Sarah. And it's so inspiring to see as a woman, her coming back and doubling down and saying, well, I think it's important to have these conversations. I think it's important to have, like, an opinion on it.
Yes.
How do you not have an opinion? And then in her private interview, she said, empathy is not someone I can teach to somebody.
Yes.
And
I can't teach someone to be a good person, and being empathetic is a core element of being a good person.
Absolutely.
So if your solution is to put your head in the sand, then you are on the side of the oppressor.
Yeah.
You agree with the egregious and evil things being done if you are not actively fighting against it. And I don't mean just sharing like the occasional post. I mean actively calling it out when you see it.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is white presenting, it is really important to use your voice because you can fucking use it because you're white. Because at the end of the day, yes, I am part brown, but that is not the part of me anyone sees. The only time that that is recognized is in, like, I'll use a really random thing. We got a tamale pot yesterday, and Caboose laughs every time I call it tamale pot because I was like, well, what the fuck is it called? Because that's what we cook the girls' dog food in. And he's like, a stock pot. And I was like,
whoa.
No, yeah. That's what it's labeled as, too. And he was like, yeah, white people call it a stock pot. He's like, that's your brown coated stuff that you're like, hey, this is a tamale pot.
I've one of my ex-boyfriends, we did Friendsgiving together, and he had to bring his own tamale pot because he was making tamales at my house.
Yes.
And that's all we've known it as.
Thank you. Yes.
So, yeah.
But like, that's the thing is that, again, if you're like, oh, I'm not into politics, that means you benefit from that. And again, you are on the side of the oppressor.
It's also just peak privilege to, like, acknowledge that that you're able to stay out of it. That is like peak privilege. It's privilege and ignorance. And I think Ben is your classic nice guy who won't take a stance on anything, which really is just cowardice to me. Yeah. You're a coward. That's plain and simple.
And you can tell that by the fact that he won't say the word gay. And
so
also
squirrely
he's
about
quoting language from the right.
Right.
And so you're quoting it, but then you're saying that you don't believe it, but you are stating like their side of like, we prefer, and maybe he got it from his church, because a lot of churches, like especially in the South, like being really like aware of the churches and going to visit lots of churches, the ones that are pushing the like anti like women's rights, anti-queer rights, like all of them that are being oppressors use slippery language of like, we prefer to say that we're faithful rather than religious. Yeah, because you know that religion is fucking evil at the core of it because it's about control.
Totally.
And so you want to use a different word so you can be like, oh, we're not trying to control you and take any of the negative stuff that comes with religion, which is, again, the same as white people being like, we don't want to say that slavery is our history because we don't want to take any of the negativity with it.
100%. It is the classic. Again, he portrays the classic nice guy who thinks that he is doing everyone a favor by not getting involved, when in all reality, you are just as bad as the people who are actively racist. You're just as bad. You have the privilege and the ability to make a huge difference by having conversations with your friends, especially as a white man in America. Your voice will absolutely be heard, and yet you choose not to do it. And one of my favorite things that I've adopted throughout this year, with men in particular, is if you say that you support women, or you support Black Lives Matter, or you support, I don't know, queer people, fucking prove it. I want you to prove it. Yeah. Because I don't see any of you, like, one of the most heartbreaking things over this past, like, International Women's Day is I did not see a single one of my male mutuals post about International Women's Day. And that is horrendous when we're in a time in America, and I think this is why this season's so good too, because it's so politically charged, because we are in, like, the beginnings of our fascist regime in America. It's nuts to see that, like, you have the power to make a difference, and arguably we need you most right now, and yet you choose to stay silent.
Because they benefit from the status quo.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
You benefit from the status quo, so why should you change it? And it's just tomfoolery is what it is. It is
tomfoolery.
And so, yeah, classic nice guy thinks that he will win crowds over, again, just not taking a stance on anything. But no.
Yeah, I just realized we should probably introduce the people that, like, did couple up.
Okay, yeah.
Because now you've met
Sarah and
Ben and Sarah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Or Sarah and Ben.
Yep.
And so you've met them. Sarah is amazing.
Yeah. It's queen.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Can I say this?
Yes.
Really fast? Watching the relationship on screen is almost like watching a horror movie, though, because
yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yes, I love Sarah, and like it's so hard to watch. I have a little bit of trauma with it too, because like Ben is very attractive to me. He is super charming. I think he's super cute. He looks like a young like Brendan Fraser.
I think it's because I know Brendan Fraser's a good guy, and I wholly, as like a female embodying person, believe in spidey senses. And when I'm like, I don't trust you, well, I stick with that. So then he's like instantly triggering. Like not attractive to me.
Oh no, it's triggering for me.
That gets easier as you get older.
Great, good to know. It's triggering for me because I see the way that he is essentially playing her. He is so charming. He knows he's good looking. Yep. He does certain things physically that I'm like, God, I would have fallen for that too. Because like his language is so slippery.
Yes.
And it is like, she's on that show to get married. She wants to find her husband. She's been seeing Ben and he's hot. And like, that sucks, dude. So yeah, it's like
and because movie. He knows like what to say in those moments. He knows when something doesn't land, and then he circles back and is like, well, I realized that like yesterday I didn't say this correctly, and I thought about it. And you can tell, like, I guess I can't say you can tell, but like as someone that's watching it from the outside, it's easier, especially because we did get those hints of like some of the guys are MAGA, to start looking for that. Whereas in that moment, because women are taught to be empathetic and taught to be more understanding, we are taught to look for the good, which is a direct thing that comes from the patriarchy.
Yes.
So that way we can be taken advantage of. So you see where she's like, oh, I appreciate you like saying that.
Yeah.
But like watching the facial expressions that she has, where he's still not kind of saying, like, he's still not literally at all said the word gay. Like, and not fucking once.
He has a lesbian friend too, which is really weird to me. I'm like, okay, so.
But it makes me wonder if he like paraded her out to be like, hey, by the way, I know someone that's a lesbian.
Oh my God, I don't know. And here's the tricky thing about Ben too, is there was a TikTok that was released, and I went and found it because Lou was like, oh my God, you need to find this. And it was a woman who knew that like they were filming in Minneapolis and photos had leaked, and she just knew in her stomach that she probably knows someone on there. And she was crying, saying that she is tired of reality TV rewarding manipulative men. And Ben on the show straight up said it was about him, and he got blocked, and he blocked her.
Well, he said he blocked her.
But then somehow said that she
found out
him?
that she blocked him.
Yeah.
Because he knew it was about him,
yeah.
but did not tell Sarah. Yep. So again, that's fucking sussy behavior. Because if somebody comes online and says some shit about me, I'm not going to hide that from Caboose. I'm also not going to hide it from you.
Totally.
So we might not be romantic partners, but you're my partner. If someone goes online and says some shit, to be quite honest, I'm going to show you if I find it, to be like, dude, what the fuck? And then we're going to also talk about, like, what part did I play in that? Like, what did I do? And he did this classic thing that, like, men tend to do. And I'm not here to shit on men, but, like, I haven't seen as many women say this. And it's not like I've had, like, a conflict-free life with women. But I have not been, like, faced with this rebuttal, which is when she asks him about it, he says, I don't remember.
And again, Sarah is such an icon, and really just, again, so inspirational because she doubles down and says, I don't like that you don't remember.
Yes.
Which is something that I would not have the balls to say, but after watching Sarah do that, I think I would now.
Yes.
And
because again,
power. You are like exemplifying your voice and
it's
power.
your half of the relationship.
Yeah.
I think that's the key, is that your half of the relationship is like, hey, I don't like this. Like, this doesn't make me feel comfortable. When you say you can't remember, but allegedly this was 4 years ago, if you can't remember, then why is she posting on social media?
Yeah. Well, she did say, she's like, okay, so like it happened 4 years ago. You say that like you just ghosted her, but why is she crying?
Yeah. And of course, as they're talking more, he's like giving more and more information.
And it's so slippery and slimy.
Yes. Oh. And she, of course, is still trying to be a good person. I say that in quotations because we are taught that good people are always willing to be understanding and go against their gut feeling. And you can see, like, based off of facial expressions, how uncomfortable she is, but she wants to back him up because this is the person that she chose to be her partner. But she also does say something crucial, which is, I don't want to not believe her.
Absolutely. She makes such a big point in like, well, I don't want to discredit her. You know, like, I want to believe you and I want to believe that, like, people can change, but I don't want to discredit her, and leaves it at that, which beautifully said.
Yes.
But also, I think it is, you can see where Ben, in a very, like, covert way, weaponizes her empathy against her.
Which I think is honestly what happens most heterosexual relationships. Yeah. Is that, like, men are taught to do that and women are taught to react to that. Yeah. Because we are programmed as little girls to be more empathetic, and they are programmed to use that against us.
For sure.
And it's not necessarily even like, I'm not saying that like men are evil, that they're like out there consciously thinking about it, but the patriarchy definitely plays that, which is why if you're like, absolutely not, okay, well then why is it that typically on a whole, men are more defensive than women? Absolutely.
The patriarchy, like, again, too, men do benefit from women being more empathetic. Yes. So without even knowing it, I think subconsciously, they'll keep using it. Yes. And so long as you keep saying, well, like, that wasn't my intention, you think that, like, my empathy is going to take control and then excuse you for your actions just because it wasn't your intention? Hell no. Can we talk? Okay, I want to introduce another couple, which is a less covert way of weaponizing empathy is found in this couple. Oh my fucking God. We hate this dude. Dave and Lauren.
Oh my Dave.
Dave is the worst. From the get-go, started negging women. And he used the same line in every single one of his, like, almost every single one. I should say it was a lot. A lot of his first dates was, so what's wrong with you?
Yes, which I will say that this is also why I like this show. Yeah. Is because they show that from the get-go.
Yes, they do.
And I understand that, like, because we had talked with people that we were friends with about this show and how you and I watch it and we do like a lot of, because of course we both enjoy psychology. So we do a lot of breakdowns and we pause and we discuss and we're like, that's what this is. That's what this is. And then through that conversation and through like a couple conversations with clients, I learned that not everyone watches like these sort of like relationship shows with an analytical brain. A lot of people are watching it just because they're like, this is drama, this is fun.
Right.
But I, in my brain and in my heart, I really hope that it's that these producers and these editors and these creators behind it are like, you know what? We're going to like show them these like emotionally intelligent things. Guinness. Sorry, we're laughing at Guinness, who cannot figure out how to get under. Do you want to help her over that cord? Over a cord. There's only one. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 3 outlets in this room, but none of them are like close to our stuff. So Callie decided to lift Guinness over this cord, which is also on a paint can to plug in. But I really hope that they, like, I feel like this season in particular kind of exemplified that, hey, you can talk about politics when you first start dating people. The same reason
you should talk about politics.
The same way that culture, race, and religion were brought up last season and how that impacts relationships. And so in my heart, I really hope it's because the producers are like, we want to show you what negging is. And this is where Caboose had said that, where he was, you know, playing on his phone, but like kind of watching, Callie and I are screaming at the TV, like, fuck this dude. And then Caboose had mentioned, like, leave, ladies, get out, leave. Like, these women need to leave. And so we had to, like, have a little mini discussion around the fact that women are inherently trained to not leave. To stay in that situation.
Right from the playground, we were taught that, like, again, if he's mean to you, he likes you. Which is so twisted. Again, we are, like, really programmed to handle abuse.
Yes.
Women are programmed to just handle and also
not handle.
Like,
yes. I was going to say accept
abuse.
And nurture a relationship in which someone is verbally, emotionally, or even physically abusive. So, and to be clear, it doesn't start out with physical abuse. It doesn't start there.
It never does.
It always starts out with verbal and emotional abuse. So if you're like, I don't know why she would have stayed, because he broke her down to that point. And yes, I understand it can go the other way as well, but I'm speaking from like this situation where he immediately started negging them, which then meant that like Caboose and I were both saying that he is a negger, and then Callie was like, I can't say that, but I will say it, that Dave is a negger. He is not a kind human being. He is manipulative.
We come up with a different...
No, that's what he does. He literally...
He nags.
Baits women into it. And then also the other thing that he does that I absolutely hate, sorry, I know I'm on a soapbox.
No.
Is that he uses his sister as a weapon. And as someone who has been used as a weapon, and when I was younger, to be clear, I was okay with it. I was like, yeah, I'll fuck this girl up. We had emotional incest. We were like, hey, if like someone hurts you, like I'm gonna like go fuck them up. Absolutely not. But as like, and to be clear, I was never gonna fight anybody. But as someone who has been used as my sister needs to like you, hearing this man repeat that a million fucking times, because men know that using another woman against a woman is going to be effective. And I don't mean that like they consciously know this, but it makes sense for them to pit women against each other.
For sure.
So throughout the entire fucking season that we have like seen with him, he has constantly used his sister as a weapon against, is it Lauren? Yeah, Lauren. He has used his, you just watch me stare at the board to be like, where are they at? As like to say, oh, well, my sister wouldn't like this. My sister wouldn't approve of it. You like, my sister doesn't even want to meet you. And like uses the sister, not only is this like kind of like yardstick for her to have to get there, but also that she's never going to be good enough. So you watch throughout the season as he continually breaks her down. So she starts out as this incredibly strong woman, and he just fucking chips away at her.
Oh, yeah.
Which from the get-go, both you and I were watching it like, oh no, he just likes to break women. Because there was another woman, which is Molly, who is a very sweet person, but is not necessarily as like emotionally strong as Lauren. And I don't mean that in like a condescending or mean way, but like Molly definitely like had like, from what we saw on screen, wanted to like be more of the like fun type. And when like we could see when that shift kind of happened of like, oh no, you want to break women. Well, that's what you like to do.
I think Molly too, one of the great things about Molly, she had such a strong deterrent against this relationship with Dave because she was okay with not getting picked.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, was a huge deterrent for people like Dave, because one of the main ingredients of women staying in an abusive relationship is knowing that this woman wants to fight for you. This woman wants to, and I'm not saying that that should ever be a bad thing. It's horrible that that is, again, weaponized against us, because when it comes to being in a relationship, obviously you want to be picked and you want to be loved, and you want to be able to like fight like for that relationship when things get hard. That's a good thing. But for manipulators like that, that is the secret deterrent, is the second that you're okay with not getting picked. He even asked Molly, like, why are you okay with this? Like, I feel like you're so chill with this.
Cool with this.
And Molly was so big on like, listen, like, I just know that like my husband's gonna want to pick me.
Yes.
So like, I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna, no, like, if you don't want to be with me, that's fine. And that is the huge huge secret ingredient to deterring these motherfuckers.
And I feel like that's also one of those great parts specifically about this show is that they start out and you're like, oh, okay, Molly is like, I can't remember
sneezing a bunch, sorry.
But Molly was like this like really like, they paint her as like ditzy and like not very emotionally intelligent.
Go around.
Like, but then in that moment, you really see her as she's like, no, dude, like, it's fine. If you don't pick me, you don't pick me. Like, I'm sad, but like, that's it. And then when the episode we just watched, which is where they all like see each other outside of the pods. Sorry, Guinness is being stubborn. But she even like calls him out on his shit to be like, you're going to blame Lauren because he basically makes up a situation that, look, if you're the jealous type, if you're like, nah, dude, I watched that and like I wholly agree with him, she should have not had like someone that she was hooking up with or friends with benefits 2 months before she went on this thing. If that is how you feel, I highly recommend Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. Because
I highly recommend getting your head out of your ass.
Hey,
my God.
But if that's where you're at,
so fucking mad.
In order to remove your head from your ass, maybe you need a little bit more cultural context around like the whole
sex and gender.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say Madonna, like
the Madonna complex.
Yes,
the fucking.
I can't remember the other fucking
Virgin Mary.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the Madonna. Yeah. If you need more information because you're like, oh no, I'm a fucking insanely jealous person. And if my person has slept with other people, and once again, I speak of this as someone who had that. Yeah. Because I was taught from a very young age that like someone having a past was a direct reflection on me. Because when you were raised in a household where all of your past is thrown in your face, that is what you then carry through life. And I was incredibly jealous that Caboose had girlfriends in high school, which is ridiculous because I had boyfriends and girlfriends in high school. But when I read that book, it genuinely changed it. So if you agree with him on this, please go to therapy. But if you just agree with him on the fact that like, hey, she shouldn't have dated someone, even though they weren't dating, they were just hooking up. She literally explicitly says they were friends with benefits. And again, if you are not comfortable with friends with benefits, read Mating in Captivity. Like, I highly recommend it. I don't know a single person who hasn't like had their mind changed by that. Esther Perel is phenomenal for that.
Yeah, I think Dave is peak toxic masculinity and also fragile masculinity. So the situation she's talking about is allegedly like Lauren had a fuck buddy, right? Yeah. Oh my God, sue her. Like, what the fuck? This whole thing really irritates the fuck out of me. And again, props to Molly for calling Dave out during one of the meetings that they finally got to meet.
She's a sleeper hit. The production staff did her dirty by making
in the
her
first
out
half,
in the pods, making her out to essentially be an airhead. Yeah. When she is an incredibly intelligent, articulate woman who fucking like again doubles the fuck down.
And she
calls out the bullshit.
Yeah, she talks to Dave about why. And mind you, she was Dave's like other pick, right? Like it was either going to be Molly or Lauren. And Molly had like asked him like, okay, so what, you've never slept with someone before? Like what, how is this an issue? He's like, no, but the big issue is that allegedly his friends were making a big deal and his friends were saying that Lauren like slept with him up until this point. And
again, why does that matter? Because she's single until she gets with someone.
And they never dated, by the way. They were strict fuck buddies and that's just what happened. But again, Dave's insecurity comes with the fact, not because of his friends, although I have no doubt that his friends absolutely subscribe to the patriarchy and enforce it and love to live in that cage of the patriarchy and make sure that their other friends live in that same fucking cage. It is just peak fragile masculinity. Like, if you were a real man, you wouldn't fuck. And again, this kind of reaffirms the patriarchy, but if you were a real man or real human being, you wouldn't fucking care.
Yeah, it's part of the understanding that, like, feelings of jealousy are normal. Yeah, but you do not get to control someone based off of those feelings of jealousy.
I also don't think you get to, like, put this person on trial for the things that they did before your relationship. No. I think it's really, obviously, if they murdered someone, then that's horrible. But when it comes to like sexual history,
unless they assaulted
unless
or harmed people.
Exactly.
To be clear,
putting
if
all
you
of those
harm someone, because again, coming back to Ben, where it's like, okay,
if you emotionally manipulated someone,
only ghosted someone, why is it 4 years later that they, and don't get me wrong, there can be people like that.
Totally.
Like, absolutely. But more than likely, that's not the case. Like, statistically, that's not the case. If you're like, well, women claim things happen to them that don't happen to them.
Oh, boy. There we go.
Then you can say, sure, every once in a while that happens. But most of the time when a woman has been, like, abused or assaulted by a man, she does not come forward on it.
Totally.
So that's why we have the entire philosophy of believe women.
I really hope that like within the next like few episodes we get to see exactly the context of that TikTok, and we really get to the bottom. I really hope they do an interview with that like woman that made the TikTok, because I really want to know what happened. And
also, I like you for catching that slip up. So one of the big gripes I do have about this show is that they say girls the entire fucking time, which is incredibly degrading, but they don't call them boys.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you'll hear someone say boy, but for the most part, it is always girls. They are not women. And like, if you're like, you know what? I don't understand the big deal. Again, educate yourself more.
Yeah, I was one of those people who didn't think that like it was a big deal being called a girl. But then as I grew older, I was like, yeah, a lot of
when you were a girl, that's fine.
When I was a girl, that was fine. But like I was still like in my 20s, like not seeing the big deal. And then like as I grew older, I realized that a lot of that language, whenever I am referred to as a girl, it's always in a weird derogatory way. Like, oh, well, girls have drama with that.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are just having like your like girl party. It's like it's a way to like, I don't know, put us down. So just be really, I don't know. If you were one of those people that like doesn't see the big deal, just pay attention to how it's being used. And I think that you'll grow to realize that it is most often bad connotation.
And again, if you're like, oh no, I use it in a non-derogatory sense, you are still perpetuating derogatory language.
I mean, you guys
because
just
unless
saw me
you're
slip up.
referring to every single man as a boy, and watch what happens when you refer to men as boys. Because as someone who has managed like multiple tattoo shops with boys, which is that they are just children that happen to age into adulthood, but have no responsibilities, that are not capable of taking care of themselves. Like, I will absolutely refer to that person as a boy, and they lose their fucking mind. So again, if that doesn't work the other way, then it's not okay language.
Yeah, maybe just stop saying it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I slip up all the time too. And I mean, you guys literally just saw me catch myself.
Yeah.
And I think, so anyways, I want to circle back.
Yes.
Lauren's empathy is constantly weaponized against her. And it is so heartbreaking to see. During the beginning stages of their relationship, she had said, well, like, I'm not stupid, but I don't know. And it's really sad to see this idea that, like, you have to be stupid in order to get manipulated. And as someone who has dealt with her fair share of abusive relationships, that's not the case. I now consider myself to be intelligent. I think I always have been. But when you grow up in an abusive household, you're always second guessing yourself. The point is to make you feel small. And so to think that, like, to reaffirm that you have to be stupid to be manipulated, that's not it. Like,
well, and that's why that idea exists, is because it's to take intelligent people and be like, oh no, intelligent people could never be manipulated. They could never join a cult. Like, they could never do that.
It's meant to victim blame too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's meant to like, even if you are intelligent and you did get manipulated, oh, so now you feel the burden of being stupid. That's not it. That's not it.
Which you hear her say that, where she's like, I don't consider myself a dumb person. It's like, but that's the point, is that you're not a dumb person.
You're not dumb.
It's that you were victimized by a fucking terrible individual. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's that they said, hey, you're a kind, empathetic, intelligent person, because people target, like, predators target things that they want. So they aren't going to go for someone that doesn't benefit them.
Yep. And the thing with Lauren is that I really do think that this is the reason why Dave leaned towards Lauren, is because Lauren was very big on, like, you need to pick me. Like, you need to, if you want to be with me, you have to pick me. Period.
Yeah, she literally said to pick her.
Yeah.
And so, like, at that point, like,
Dave's like, okay, great, I can get this one, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And the whole breaking her down thing, by the way, again, you'll watch him dodge any kind of responsibility with their relationship. He made Molly break up with him instead of him break up with Molly. But then somehow says, well, I thought I did break up with you. No, you didn't say the words, I'm breaking up with you.
Yes.
And then you also notice he pins everything on his sister. He pins everything on his friends. He pins everything on his family. And in his interviews, he's saying, well, I didn't mean to break us up. Well, then what did you mean? And you also catch him say, like, you know, like, if I wanted, all of my friends and family would go and meet you, which, by the way, he dangles his friends and family in Lauren's face like a carrot while also humiliating her, making her feel like she isn't enough. She is constantly crying about, like, who she is and how she needs to defend her character. And Lauren, you don't need to defend yourself. This guy is a misogynist.
Yeah.
He fucking sucks. And I know that she didn't know that at that point.
Predator that, like, specifically targeted her because of her empathy and because of that, like, thing that we all have, which is an underlying desire to be chosen. And again, this show is like, it primes you for that because the whole point is to be picked.
Yeah.
So, like, that has nothing to do with, like, her. That wholly has to do with the fact that, like, he is not a kind human being that then said, oh, here you go. Here's a target and I can hit this target. Yep. That's it.
Exactly. And so, again, this is part of, like, breaking a woman down. And when I was with a narcissist, I will say one of the biggest red flags is them dangling their friends or family in front of you.
Yep.
And when I had gone over to, like, my ex's house, we weren't even really together, but, you know, I'm just going to say my ex to simplify it. When I was over at my ex's place, he would hide me from his roommates. And that's not okay. That's fucking weird. It is weird behavior because, again, like, oh, well, you wouldn't fit in the community because this is a really, like, tight-knit, like, you know, you would just stand up like a sore thumb. And I really do think it's a way to control women and it's a way to make them feel like they're not worthy. So, yeah, from the start, I was like Dave's MAGA. Mind you, we don't know how any of these people voted, but we were just guessing again. And from the start, we were like Dave's MAGA. The first note I wrote down from him is I hate him, and he's entitled and mean.
Yep, and that she won't say the negging.
Oh, he was negging.
But that he was negging.
He was negging.
Which, like, it makes me so happy to be with a partner who's able to watch that and be like, that's negging. Because he understands that now when he sees it, which means he can also call it out when he sees it.
Totally. One of the second things he said to Lauren, too, by the way, is, oh, well, you're 30? Okay, so you're getting old. No one's going to want you. Again, he's, like, really cruel.
Yes.
Horrible person. Do you want to introduce our next couple?
Which one? Wait, I want to see. Can we go happy for a second?
Yes.
And go with Joey and Monica?
I'm so glad because Joey is Dave's foil. That's
yes.
Oh my God.
So you have Dave, who is toxic masculinity, and then you have Joey, who is peak fucking masculinity.
And, like,
when it comes to just, like, a person, because to be clear, I don't mean masculinity in the way that, like, a lot of people perceive it. I mean it as, like, embodying whatever the fuck you want to be. The same thing with femininity is that when you are peak that, they are the same. That you do not abide by gender roles when you are peak of either gender, because that means that you have ascended the idea of gender roles that, like, men cannot wear fun, happy clothes. Men cannot speak about their emotions. Men cannot say kind words to women and men. And, like, that's, like, I saw Joey and instantly I was like, he's a Bernie bro. Because he just gave off, like, peak Bernie bro. Like, he has such a good heart. He is a kind person. You saw him, and I think because he's white, you assumed he was MAGA.
I don't know what it might be, like a broken picker. I don't know. I don't.
It's
think
not a broken picker. No one has a broken picker.
I was very.
Don't be mean to my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was very suspicious of Joey, and I don't know where that comes from. So that's something that I would have to dig in with myself because, yeah, you both you and Caboose were like, no, he's a Bernie bro for sure. And I don't know.
Because I saw fun clothes, long hair, and fun socks.
And I said, I don't trust you. Are you in camouflage? Who the fuck are you? Right? Immediately
Which does not mean that you have a broken picker. That means that you are hyper aware of like, I don't trust this. This is too good to be true.
True. Yeah. And he has such a golden heart. The reason why he's a direct foil to Dave is because you can really see through his words, and again, first of all, incredibly emotional, intelligent. Second of all, goes to therapy. Third of all, he does not subscribe to peak masculinity. He talks about on the show like, well, I hope my future wife like likes my Hawaiian shirts because they're not going anywhere, and that's his like thing. His thing is like bright colored Hawaiian shirts. He's super goofy, and
he's big. He has
big
like
personality,
big energy,
which is great.
And it's one of those things of like, that's just who he is. So that's the thing with like toxic masculinity and with the patriarchy is it takes these like big personalities and it tries to like conform them into a box. And like, as someone who's been married to a man for almost 20 years, I've watched this happen to him.
Totally.
Is that like, he was big. He like was happy to express all the shit he loved. And the more like toxic, like masculine men he was around, it like shrunk him. And it like degraded that in the same way that we watch Dave degrade and like break down Lauren. I've watched this happen in my life where I'm like, but I've watched this person that was like opinionated and beautiful and like was totally happy, loving all these like weird, random, quirky stuff. Like the shit that makes you a person just get broken down. So like, you're going to wear the same stuff as everyone else and you're going to act the same as everyone else. And it is that like trappings of the patriarchy is to be like, this is that role you play and that like you can only exist within this role. And it happens to be clear, it happens in both sides. It happens in hyper feminine spaces where women can only exist in these like spaces.
Absolutely.
And these ideas. Like we had a friend who, you're so cute for crying.
Yeah.
We had a friend that was like only, because they were queer, only okay with you when you were hyper masculine.
Oh my God, that was really difficult. And it happened, and it's a good lesson, and like it happens in queer communities too, where like,
what happens in any community where we define who we are as a community by how we act and look. And I mean outside of like having like ethics and morals, but in these like, this is how you have to be perceived.
Yeah, where like I want the ability to dress like a dude when I want to dress like a dude. Like as someone who gets into like, I love being in the queer space because that means that I get to have fun with like gender play. I get to have fun with like my outfits. I get to have fun with expressing myself. Sometimes I love being feminine and you'll see me looking like the picture perfect like feminine woman. And then other times I like to dress up like a skater boy with like a full face of makeup. That's still like play, you know? Other
times you look like someone's Asian grandpa.
Absolutely. And I love it. Sometimes I see the fits from Asian grandpas. Actually, we saw one recently and I was like, the fit is fire. The fit is doing it. I love it.
I was commenting on someone else's fit because it wasn't the correct fit for me. And you were like, are you talking about his? And I was like, no, dude, that's
amazing.
That's amazing. I was like, I'm actually talking about that one. The shoes match
the hat. And then the color combo between the pants and the jacket. It was
a great fit, but it was definitely
grandpa
fit. Grandpa fit.
I was like, I would wear that.
Yeah, because that's when you dress like my dad.
Totally.
But I think that's the thing is that like, no matter which idea you prescribe to, whether it's this like idea of like what queer looks like or what femininity looks like,
or what a man looks like.
Yeah, what masculinity looks like. When you prescribe to that, like it chips away at like you being a whole person.
I think it chips away at you being a whole person. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
It also chips away at your creativity.
Yes.
Because that's part of like drag. That's part of like play. That's just a whole part. That's the entirety of fashion.
Because it operates on fear. Because again, creativity takes like the lack of fear. So you have to be like, you know what? This is what the fuck I look like.
Creativity like requires joy. And that is literally Joey and Monica.
Yes.
We love them both. They're awesome. I think they're such a great fit for each other. Because
also like he advocates for her. So like I'm gonna throw some shade at her fucking sister for a second. And again, I can speak on this because I have been her sister.
Yeah.
Where like you operate out of a place of jealousy for your sibling instead of operating out of and like a jealousy of just people instead of operating out of a place of like pure joy.
Totally.
And like you had an ex who like I wrote like a thing on my notes. I never like posted it, but I wrote a thing about like the next level of my like growth as a person at the time was to see you in love and how much joy that brought me. And like we talk about like your future spouse and how like I really look forward to that, because like at that point I had only known someone being brought into like a relationship or a family or whatever as like a negative,
right?
Because in my family, like when you introduced a new person, like that person went through the fucking ringer. No one was ever good enough. All that typical shit you have within a toxic family of like I would be like, if you hurt him, I'll fuck you up. Again, no, the fuck I wouldn't have. Calm the fuck down. But growing up in that toxic environment, you learn that like no one is good enough. Whereas I'm like, I mean, to be clear, all of us are just human beings and there is no good enough. It's just trying your best is good enough.
Absolutely.
And so like you falling in love in that situation was something like I still talk about that relationship very fondly, because it was a beautiful time for me personally to learn that, to be like, but I don't have to be jealous or upset. I can just be happy to see this side of you. And that's that part, like her sister is obviously dealing with all of her own shit. She even mentions on there where she's like, well, I'm the oldest, so I should have gotten married first. Like a lot there to unpack. And so she's quite cruel to him when she first meets him.
Also, like the second meeting too, I noticed with her.
She tried to act nice, but like it wasn't fooling. If you've been in that environment, it won't fool you.
It's very classic to me, and I'm great. I'm really happy and like grateful that I've grown to the point now where I can recognize what people are saying versus what they look like. So she's smiling, right, while she's saying these things, but every other sentence there's a negative connotation. And I'm really great. That's how I feel like I've matured in the past like year or so, where like I can see how you look friendly because you're smiling, which is really hard for me, because I used to be like, well, see, but they're trying to be nice. No, if what you're saying, every other sentence is laced with the criticism or some sort of like weird, like I'm saying this as like, yeah, just like a criticism and like a negative connotation, then you're not a nice person. You look nice, but you're not being nice.
Well, I think it's again that like masking to like you are playing nice. And like, don't get me wrong, I grew up in that environment where like you would say stuff with a smile, but it was like, I guess the like average person knows it as being catty. Which is like, hey, we're going to say it with a smile, but it's actually meant to like belittle and degrade you and make you feel shitty. And like for me, watching her like be so cruel was like mildly triggering, because I was like, I have been a part of that environment. And I hope that she's able to go to therapy and be able to work through that and like recognize that. And I've also been a victim of that, because that was like the household that I was raised in, where like people didn't say nice shit to each other. My brothers weren't kind to my spouses. I wasn't kind to theirs until I got older and realized, because I grew up with like parents, well, not so much my dad, but my mom was like cruel. And like we've talked about this, where it's like I grew up in a world where like cruelty was like the language. So like my oldest brother and I have like had discussions around that of like, but you say stuff and it's cruel. And it's that like constantly being aware of like, hey, like, why am I saying this?
Yeah.
Like, and you can say it with a smile, but like the note that you wrote on the board is that like she spends the whole time trying to like sabotage and undermine them. And I will say that I fucking love the relationship between Joey and Monica, because you can see where Monica has been so used to that like family like dynamic that she is like not questioning her sister at first. She's just like, she's upset, she's hurt, but doesn't like know how to ask the questions, because when you grow up in an abusive like environment like that, and yes, that is abuse, like the like undermining of how you feel about a situation is abuse. And so as like she's saying that he very kindly and gently like guides her to like, well, do you think it could be jealousy? Do you think it could be these things? Which don't get me wrong, I don't know how the fuck her sister's gonna react when she sees that on TV now. Because if she watches that, like I'm hoping that it's the case that she sees her actions and goes, oh shit.
Yes. Because that's the thing is if you have a reaction after hearing that about yourself and your first instinct is anger and not curiosity, or your first, and I think
anger is normal in that, but then to also spend time to
exactly. Yeah. It's normal to get defensive at first, absolutely, especially when you're confronted with a hard truth about yourself that you weren't ready to hear.
Yes.
Oh my God! Hello,
That's
wind.
The wind.
This is the first time we've had wind in this house. Anyways, oh my God, I totally just got off track.
But yeah, you were saying that if you're confronted with that.
Oh yeah, I think my thing is what do they say on the internet? It's like, if it doesn't apply to you, then why are you applying it to yourself? And I think
I love that.
Yeah,
Can
like
you say that again?
If it doesn't apply to you, then why are you applying it to yourself? And so. Right, there's two sides of the coin to that, where it's like you could either over apply it to yourself and be like, oh my God, am I a horrible person? Blah, 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 blah. Or you're completely rejecting it and saying that could never be me. So to find that good in between of like, okay, how did I do this? Like, how is that coming off? Blah, blah, blah. I also, with Joey, want to put another side note before I forget. I have never met a man that will so like distinctly and just outright to the point say, I don't think it went well with this.
Oh my God.
God, that was hot. Like, that was so sexy.
Okay, so to circle back on the hotness.
He was not skirting around it, not circling around it. Straight to the point. I think it went really well with your parents. I don't think it went well with your sister.
Yes.
That was hot.
So here's the like fun part about Joey. I don't think Joey's classically attractive. If you just saw him in a picture lineup, like obviously attractiveness is like relevant for every single person.
It really is.
But I think he is a true case of like emotional intelligence is the sexiest thing.
Yeah.
Because the more he like speaks and is like honest and just like, doesn't dodge around these like awkward emotional moments.
He really doesn't.
Because like I for sure would have been trained in that moment to be like, well, yeah, I mean, that was good. And the fact that he was like, yeah, I don't think that went well. And then like dives in deeper with her. So he doesn't like state that and then leave her out in the fucking wilderness to like figure it out on her own because it's her family.
Oh, that's the other thing
speak on
that
it.
A lot of men would do is just be like, I don't think it went well with this. And then it would be your job to figure out how and why.
Yes.
And you would have to like dig it out of them. Instead, he's just like, yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I think that like there might be some jealousy there. Do you think that could be it? And like he asked her questions. Oh my God, he asked her fucking questions.
He is a person that went to therapy and did the motherfucking work. Because Joey. I know a lot of people that go to therapy and honestly, their therapists are just getting a fucking paycheck because they're not moving the needle. Because at the end of the day, your therapist is much like your coach, like at the gym. If you aren't actually trying, there is an effort there outside of the gym.
Yeah.
No matter how much coaching you get, no matter how much your personal trainer works with you, you're not going to change. Your body composition is going to stay the same. There's not going to be an actual long-lasting like result. The moment you're not seeing that physical therapist, you're not working out anymore.
I also, just to circle back really fast to Monica's sister. I've had friends before say some pretty cruel things about my partners in the guise of, but like, I just care about you and I don't want you to get hurt. And that's something that her sister said. And I just want to let you guys know that if your friends ever make you feel bad about like who you're dating and say some vile shit about them and then follow it up with, but I just say it because I care, that's not okay. They might be your friend, but you need to draw a very distinct line of like, listen, like people are going to date who the fuck they want to date and they will end things when they feel like they need to end things. But you do not get to dictate whether or not they end things or sway them into that opinion of ending things. They need to come to that on their own.
I'm going to have a slightly more controversial take on this, is that they are not your friends. Because as the person who saw you in one of the most emotionally unhealthy relationships that you were ever in, I count myself as your friend because I did not have an opinion to you about that, except that if you are happy, I am happy.
Totally.
So if you tell someone that you don't like their spouse, you're not their friend. You're a piece of shit.
Absolutely.
Who thinks that their opinion matters more than it does.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you love someone, like, don't get me wrong, I don't give a fuck if my, like, siblings, my friends, whoever enjoy my spouse the same way that I don't care. I'm lucky enough that you like Caboose and Caboose likes you.
Totally.
But, like, if you're someone's friend, and if you're thinking like, oh no, but what if they're in a shitty relationship? Your point is to show them love and to not like criticize that relationship. And so if you're watching this and you saw my hand go out and I looked past the camera, that's
I'll just because wave on camera.
Caboose is currently going back to work, so we say I love you with a hand signal that he got from childhood. It's really cute. He is, or sorry, I said go back to work. He's going back to school. Which is work. But he's been hanging out in the dining room while we've been doing this. He came home to hang out with me, but I'm talking to you guys instead. Oops. It's okay. We have the rest of our lives together. But yeah, so you don't get to state your opinions on other people's relationships if you are their friend. The reason that we can talk about these is because this is TV. They go on there,
unfortunately,
specifically for this. This is part of it.
I would wager to say, if you're on reality TV, you have an idea knowing that your relationship and who you are as a person is up for discussion from the internet, from random people, because you were unfortunately on TV. That's just...
But if I were in like relationship with these people, the same as we all go home and we talk shit about the other couples that we know.
That's the one thing that was missing from this episode, I will say. Typically when all the couples meet each other, there's a lot of tea back home. No tea. No one had anything to say.
Everyone just said nice stuff about each other.
That was the shortest honeymoon episode I've ever seen.
I actually thought it was really cute because everyone was like, everyone's crushing it.
And we're like, wow.
And I thought that was really sweet. But yeah, as someone, like, I can't imagine ever saying, can I say what they said?
Yeah.
I can't imagine ever saying that I wouldn't be friends with this person that you're dating. Like, they're just not my type of person. I wouldn't be friends with them. Like, that's a fucked up thing to say to your friend.
The actual quote is, if I wouldn't want to be friends with them, then I wouldn't want you to date them.
Oh, that's so much worse.
Which is really bad.
It's a fucked up thing to say. And that's so much worse than how, like, because even then, my brain's designed to filter stuff into a nicer sense. But like, that is a horrible thing because again, I wasn't friends with your manipulative ex, that's not my fucking relationship. And whether or not you would be friends with Caboose outside of our friendship and then the relationship that's built from that and being roommates and doing life and stuff like that together is not like, I don't want to fucking have that pressure on me. And I think that that's the thing is that like when you give unsolicited opinions about people's like relationships.
Well, also you're coercing someone essentially to make decisions based off of how you feel about that person, which is exactly what Monica's sister was doing, trying to coerce her into not marrying him. It's not okay. And it's also like on the topic of like emotional incest. That's emotional incest.
Yes.
And like we had a discussion where it's like, no, what I think about your future spouse shouldn't matter because you're the person doing life with them.
Yeah. And my thing is like, I love you, therefore I will love this person.
Totally.
Like it's as simple as that because if this person makes you happy, and again, if this person is not currently making them happy, all you can do is love them through it. Because if you want to continue a relationship with them and you love this person, then they need to go through this journey and you're just there for it.
Totally.
So on that note, do you want to talk about Virginia and Devin?
God damn.
Can I start off with Virginia?
Totally.
They did her dirty.
They did.
They made her out in the pods like she was a ditz.
They really did. I don't think we got enough
that
of
she
her.
was not emotionally intelligent, that
she didn't ask important questions.
Yes, they did her fucking dirty. Yeah. Because once you get outside the pods and you hear her talking about the relationship, about marriage, about a prenup, which we'll get to that because we got hot takes on that. Which,
by the way, Virginia, work. Yes. Oh my God.
They did her so dirty because I was like, oh, I'm not seeing a lot of substance in this person. And I'm going to state the controversial thing here. I don't know if it's because she's an intelligent, a mature, beautiful black woman.
Yeah, what if she is like not giving them enough drama? So
yes.
She just didn't get
so they just only took a couple clips and said, oh, she sounds kind of dumb here. Let's put that in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like, I definitely, the person that's like outside the pods, the person that's like, you know, having conversations about the conversations they're having off camera is a very different person. Because we were like, I don't know, it's not giving me a whole lot. The same, and I want to say they did the same thing with Devin, which again, I don't want to believe is racial bias. But like the fact that the only 2 black people on this show got made out to not be like whole people, and that the stories they told about them were very like flighty and like just not like as some like substantive on there really fucking frustrates me, because then their relationship is one that like, look, I don't know how they, you know, again,
we actually have no idea if these people get married or not.
But outside of that, like their values are incredibly similar, like and they have like great deep conversations, and she is like, I fucking love her.
Yeah,
I love her so much because like she knows what she wants in life. She is going for it. She is clear. She like talks a lot about a prenup, and like that meant we got to talk about a prenup because you've previously talked about like you would do a prenup.
Oh yeah, and all of my partners have gotten weird about it, and unfortunately, I don't know a lot of women who like bring up the conversation first about a prenup.
Yeah, and
I was always someone who like, you know, at one point I had an ex that like I was very close to, and we were considering getting like married, you know, in the future. Obviously, it was a serious relationship, and I had told him like, you know, I would love to do a prenup, and he's like, why would you ever want to do that? And I'm like, God damn, I'm not saying that I want us to get divorced, but if you think about it, it does make things like, it's already an emotionally grueling experience. Why would we want to like make it worse on each other by like sicking our lawyers on each other? I just don't want to do that, you know? And she brought up the prenup, which is great. I love you, Virginia, so much for that. And then she also brought up voting. She straight up asked it while they were in bed, by the way. Oh, yeah. Like, okay, you know, when you vote, do you vote a certain way? And I think Devin acknowledged being a non-voter. I think...
Yeah, he does.
I don't know word for word he said that, but I think he said...
Yeah, like, he stated that he doesn't like to be... Like, he doesn't really get into politics.
Yeah, he's not into politics. And I think it insinuated that he doesn't vote. I think he insinuated that. I don't know the direct quote. I'm sad that I didn't write it on the board.
But it's a weird, like, exchange. And again... This is TV. We don't get the whole thing. So we're just breaking it down on like the clips that we got that like, it seemed quite like, I don't know, very tension to me. Like in the fact that like, so she has a conversation with him about like, he's like, oh, I tend to vote more conservative. My family votes conservative, i.e. MAGA.
Secret MAGA?
Yeah. And she's like, no, we need to talk about this. And like, this is why you can't like vote that way.
Yes. And like he was trying to say like, well, it really just depends on the 2 candidates. And she's like, yeah, but the parties are what like typically the candidates are running for that party. Yeah. Because the party has a different agenda, and like it's still all intrinsically involved. It's not just those 2 people. They're still representing everything that could happen. And she brings up abortion and how she believes in the woman's right to choose, which we love. Yeah. Love a pro-choice queen.
Which I will say her answer to that, because he rebutted with what I've seen happen a lot with like conservative men, is that they're like, well, I think that a man should have a choice in that as well. And I love her for this response, because it's one that I like feel very close to my heart, which is, yes, in the best case scenario, like when I had an abortion, I talked about it with Caboose. Yep. Because he got me pregnant. So like, okay, let's have a conversation about this. Like, I don't feel like I'm ready to have a kid. And he's like, I'm not ready to have a kid. And we were able to talk about it. But in the case of like, if you aren't in a relationship in which you can talk about that, then no, a man doesn't get a fucking say, because his life is not on the fucking line. And she like had stated that, where she was like, well, in the best case scenario, yes, you do want to discuss it with your partner. But as someone who has driven many a woman to a clinic because their spouses or their family could not know that they were doing it for fear of retaliation, divorce, and or death, fuck to every person that's like, well, a man should have a say. No, sir, your life is not the one that's on the line. And also your life doesn't have to change if you decide that you don't want that kid later.
Dude. And I think that's the thing is it really is just constant downplay of the female experience. And so he is all like, oh, well, and she asked him like, okay, yeah. So you think that like men should have an opinion, but again, in best case scenario, sure. But also, ultimately, I think it is the woman's right to choose. And
I love her for that. She's a fucking hero. And I'm still so mad that they did her dirty in the pods. That they made her out to not be this amazing substantive person.
Both Virginia and Devin's note section on our board are literally so small because again, we didn't really get much from them in the pods, and now again we're watching this flourish. And one thing I will say though, and I think that like. As much of a feminist as I am, I will say this did bother me. Virginia paints a picture for Devin. Yeah. And it's this picture of like, you know, in 5 years, and I love that she has a 5-year goal. In 5 years, like I do see you being a head basketball coach at this place, and I see myself with a baby on my hip and pregnant with our second, running the concession stand and cheering you on. And although...
Wait, can you just pause for 1 second?
For sure.
You guys, this like next thing blew my fucking mind because I have never thought about this. And as someone who did enter into marriage with a very like patriarchal sense, even though I was like, I'm a feminist, I'm queer, this next line fucked me up.
Yes. I want to preface this with saying, yes, I'm a feminist. Yes, I do believe that like if you're a woman and you want to live a life where you have a bunch of kids and you stay at home, I support that. If that's the life that you want to live and you feel solid in that, that's great. But the problem I had with this picture that she painted for him, and he ate it up. He loved it. He brings it up multiple times in the show about how wonderful this is and how this like sealed the deal for him. This whole picture is of him being at his peak success and her being subservient to him. And that is what I did not like about it. So he's at his peak of his career.
Because he is the coach of Park City. Head coach. Yeah. Because right now he's an assistant coach. He is the head coach. And she is pregnant with his children. Minding his other children.
And running
the concession stand. Which, don't get me wrong, running a concession stand is important.
It's fun. Yes, absolutely.
But it is definitely the sports equivalent of barefoot pregnant in the kitchen.
Absolutely. And I brought up this point that you could paint that picture for any man. Just replace head coach with his career of choice. Oh, we got a flash rain happening.
We do.
I hope Caboose is okay. I think he's riding
back. Yeah, I'm a little bit sad because he's definitely in the rain.
No. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you could replace this image with anything. Just replace Devin's name with another man's name and his choice of career.
Yes.
And then don't change the picture on your end besides the concession stand.
Yeah, put yourself in the kitchen. Put yourself like cheering them on. Yeah. Baking a pie. Yeah. Whatever the fuck it is. But it is, when you said that unlocked something in me where I was like, that is that difference. Because like when I first like got married, would not have known that was indeed what it is that like, even me doing his laundry as he's like playing video games. And let me be clear, he was really good at video games. So he's succeeding in that moment. If you're watching on YouTube and Callie has disappeared, that's because she is running around the house closing the windows because AC is not a thing in New Zealand. So our windows are open and we just got a flash storm. But it is the case of like, it was me, like, once again, serving a man. So men's fantasies and that patriarchal, and I'm not saying all men, but that patriarchal, like, view of marriage, which marriage was created within the structure of the patriarchy. And that idea is a woman serving a man.
And if you don't think that, like, that's necessarily, like, a patriarchal thing, like, oh, well, no, it's not playing into the patriarchy. Like, I would love to hear that simply because, like, it's a beautiful image of, like, a family and blah, blah, blah. Then I want you to sit down and think about your potential wife. And she goes, my 5-year plan is I'm at the peak of my career and you are at home getting the dishes done, getting the kids ready for school, and getting ready to host, like, my fan club meeting. And you're there providing all of the snacks for all of my fans, and you're with our kids, and we're all wearing matching outfits, and you're cheering me on. And if you have a problem with that, of her being at her peak and then you being subservient to her, then yes, it is a patriarchy.
I'm actually going to counter that to not even say if you have a problem with that. If that's not your fantasy, then that's patriarchal thinking. Because again, if I said, hey, like when I think about us,
yes,
it is never, oh, I want Callie Lee's where I am in the spotlight and I am doing everything and you're in the background. You're in the concession stand just supporting me from afar. Like that's that difference of like patriarchal thinking is that like you want me in the background and I'm cheering you on. Not it's the two of us standing side by side. Embodied and empowered on doing whatever the fuck we want to do.
I think about it a lot too. Our actual, like my vision for Callie Lou is just to stray away from that.
Yeah.
I know we're an hour and 18 minutes.
Oh, no one cares.
But my image that I view for us is I am thinking about how uncomfortable it is for neither of us to do as much as we're doing right now. Like I think I've talked about this before, like how uncomfortable it is going to be for me to not be the person making all the things for catering. That's going to be uncomfortable for me. Yeah. You know, getting to the point where like, no, other people have it handled.
Yeah. I think about that when we run a convention is that I'm like, oh, we can't make all this stuff ourselves. We'll have to like outsource that.
Yeah. Like people are going to have to like actually like work for us, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and that's weird for me too.
Where like
people working
you and I
for
aren't
me.
The person, aren't the people hanging up the banner. Like people are doing that.
Oh.
Or like if we ever get to a point where like we're, you know, I should say when, I'm going to speak this in the universe. When we get to a point where we are bigger into YouTube and we're not doing the setup. We're not in charge of the lights.
Yeah. I think the part where my brain shifts there is that I'm like, but you know what? It's giving an opportunity to somebody who loves to do that.
That's true. That is true.
That like somebody out there loves doing lighting and would love that opportunity to like
to do that.
They
for
get
a fun
paid,
show.
For doing that.
That's
that like somebody wants to be. That's how my brain. I don't know how much
Someone
of that is like self-preservation.
Yeah.
Like somebody gets a livable wage.
But notice how
do this.
Neither of us are like subservient in that matter, and we're actually feeling weird about other people doing that for us.
Yeah, because I don't want that person to feel subservient. That's why like, I struggle.
I don't want other people to feel like they're below me because they're doing something.
No,
and that's why I feel like that's a lot of why we do shit ourselves too.
Yeah, because I don't want someone to feel like they're
someone to feel like you're working for me.
No,
God.
But that is again that like, hey, that's the patriarchal like fantasy.
I will say my matriarchal fantasy is the man having my kid. You can have my kid. I don't want to have your kid. You carry it. Be a seahorse. I don't want to do that. Absolutely not.
I love that.
Yeah. No.
I would carry your kid in a non-weird way.
Well, thank you. That's so sweet.
I might be getting too old for that though. Okay, so we have covered Virginia and Devin.
Yep. And then we've covered
Lauren and Dave.
Yep.
Okay.
We've done Sarah and Ben.
Yep. Joey and Monica, my favorite couple.
The last couple we have is just Taylor and Daniel. And I mean, not a lot of drama has happened since right before they left the pods.
I will say that we did think that when we first met Daniel that he would be relatively MAGA leaning.
We thought he was
more accurately, I said he looks like a young Republican. Like as in he would join the young Republican clubs.
I feel like he was at that like tiki torch fucking thing. I really
he does look like that. And I feel a little bit racist in that sense that I'm like, oh no, is it because he's like that type of white? Like when you had said that Sarah like looks like, I was like, I don't think she's MAGA. I think she just looks Republican. And then we brought up the fact that like people say the most unhinged Republican shit to caboose when we were in the States.
100%.
But that is definitely one of those where I'm like, poor fucking Sarah. It's probably why she has to be so out in front of it, because she's like, I'm aware that I look fucking Republican.
I think so.
So I need to like get ahead of this.
I think Sarah's had some unhinged shit said to her. So she's like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to slip in the N-word anywhere. I am not. No.
Yeah.
I think she's had moments like that.
Yeah. So I was definitely, I don't know. I feel like it in the beginning, we talked about how they were both like weirdly obsessed with height, but then they saw each other and they seemed fucking fine.
They seemed okay with it, yeah. Daniel's still weird with height. We thought he was MAGA leaning originally because Sarah, we decided, oh wait, no, not Sarah, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
We decided Taylor wasn't MAGA leaning just because she's got a Taco Bell tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only tattoo she has, which, by the way, Sarah, you would have been my favorite client. That is fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And then she talks about how half it fell out. So it's Taco B.
It's just Taco B, but still, loves Taco Bell, love that. And then Daniel responding with like, oh, we should get matching tattoos. And Sarah's like, no, like if you were to get a fast food tattoo, like have it be your favorite, which by the way, girl, work. You're not doing this like thing of like, no, this is my special thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to just hop in on it and take all the credit.
Yeah.
And she's like, so if you were to get a fast food tattoo, what would it be? And Daniel said Chick-fil-A. So then we were like, MAGA.
Yeah.
For sure. He's MAGA leaning.
Yeah. Which is, again, hard because if you're in the South, you know that Chick-fil-A tastes great, but also they don't believe in human rights. So are we just going to ignore the fact that like...
Literally. Like, are we just... if they find out you're gay and you're working for them, they're going to shoot you out back. But anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why we thought that he was MAGA leaning. There was drama that happened. Taylor thought that Daniel had found her on Instagram and knew what she looked like and followed her and then unfollowed her. They gave her phone back briefly.
Which, again, iconic. Because we, as people that have watched all the previous 5 seasons and, like, the spinoffs and stuff, Caboose is, in here for that episode. And he's like, well, can't she just check? And we're like, they don't give you your phone back until the end. Like, I said it so confidently.
Oh, for sure, same.
Where I was like, that does not happen.
Oh, my God. And it was
like,
so
we're
funny.
just going to live in this, like,
we're not going to know until they go on a honeymoon and she gets her phone back.
After the honeymoon.
Or after honeymoon. Yeah, and that's like a risky thing to play. And one of the producers, so they organized a meeting where Sarah could confront Daniel, and Daniel's like, no, I don't think I followed you on Instagram. And Sarah's like, well, it makes me concerned, like I'm scared. I'm a little scared about that. Like, I think that you might have known me. And like, he did keep mentioning that their paths have crossed before.
Yeah.
And she did say, I remember seeing like your Christmas photo. And I also remember seeing that we had mutuals, which by the way, I don't think I'm still like weird about Daniel. As we've gotten to know him, he's been fine.
There's still, it's hard because I don't know if it's just that he looks like he would, be a young Republican.
I mean, my theory too, like if you got caught, then you would be on your best behavior, and they haven't had a lot of screen time. So he's been on his best behavior. We haven't really seen much. There's not a lot of drama between them except for that situation. But when that unfolded, both you and I were like, I don't know. This is iffy. Yeah. And the producer in the middle of their interrogation was like, I keep saying Sarah. Taylor, if you would like your phone back so that way you can check, we're willing to give you your phone back. And Taylor's like, yeah, okay. And immediately pulls her phone out of her pocket. It was
funny. Iconic.
It was funny.
Again, that sense of like
locked and loaded. Like,
you know all the rules to this world.
The phone's already open.
Bitch, we're going to change that.
They put a picture of Sarah in front of the phone to unlock it. I keep saying Sarah, Taylor, and shows it. Holy shit,
it was very good TV.
Oh my God, that was so
because we were
funny.
not expecting that.
We were laughing so hard.
Yeah.
Locked and loaded, the producer.
Because then I'm instantly telling people, like, this never happens. They never let you do this.
Oh my God.
And so, like, again, that is why Love is Blind, good television.
Great television. So Taylor couldn't find anything.
No.
And you and I were still like, I don't know, that was weird.
I still don't trust it.
I don't trust it either. It was
again,
weird.
I don't know if that's my prejudice because he is like blonde hair, blue-eyed, like Midwestern man, that I'm like, I don't trust you.
I like that that's become, seriously, like white guys are the number one reason for like mass shootings for like,
but statistically that's true.
It's true. And I'm glad that like
I'm
you and I
judge you less.
Yes, you and I have that prejudice against white people because we follow statistics, bitch. Yeah. But also, again, you look like you're MAGA. So I don't know. I don't know. And I don't trust him either. No. But we haven't had any drama since that. So
yeah.
We don't really have a lot to say.
Our most even keel. Yeah.
Yeah. Neutral couple. Actual neutral couple. Daniel hasn't really said anything misogynistic either, except for, like, unfortunately, again, we've had a lot of conversations around the patriarchy, how it hurts men as well, and he's obsessed with his own height, and that's part of the patriarchy.
That is super sad.
That is literally part of the patriarchy.
A lot about his like height, and that's a really upsetting thing to be like. Again, that is part of it, where it's like you need to fit within this box that you need to be incredibly high, from the ground.
Other thing about Daniel, that I will say I thought was a little bit odd, if I'm being nitpicky. He has a blind sister and tried to equate his experience on Love is Blind with his blind sister's experience of being blind and loving people. And although some people might be like, oh, but that's sweet, I would wager to say that is not the same thing at all whatsoever. So that's my only other thing on Daniel.
Yeah. Well, and then is it that he looks like her mom?
Yes. Daniel looks like Taylor's mom.
Yeah,
they
that
look
was
more
weird.
Related. That was weird.
Yeah, incredibly
Taylor's
like that.
Taylor's mom is also kind of mean.
Oh, I forgot about that. But yeah, she was quite mean. Yeah,
quite
the
mean.
Parents on this season have also been really interesting. So if you'd like the breakdown of the parent interactions, I will gladly rewatch those and give you guys more details on that, because we had a lot to say about the families meeting, like amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
The one last thing that I do want to talk about, that like if you've lasted with us this long, thank you so much. I do not understand. So Dave brings this up when he's fighting with Lauren, and they're at a bowling alley, and she's just having, and to be clear, an emotionally like vulnerable conversation.
Yes.
And then he was like, can we not do this here?
Yes.
And that's something that I really struggle with, is this idea of like, there's a time and a place to discuss your emotions. I personally think that that is incredibly shitty, that people do not want to just have real conversations. So if you're the type of person that's like, oh, well, people only post their best on social media, that idea comes from this same sense of like control that community has over people, to be like, you can never have a discussion in public. You can never have a fight in public. You can't cry in public. Like, you have to be like perceived as being like perfect. And I'd ask Caboose about it. I know you have a lot to say, so I will let you talk in just a second about this, because I loved your perspective as well. But I asked Caboose about like, hey, from your side, because he's literally told me that multiple times, where he's like, can we not do this here? Because we'll be in like a hardware store, and I'm like, hey, what you said hurt my feelings. Tends to be in hardware stores because they're very male coded and men are kind of shitty in them. And again, I have no qualms. If you hurt my feelings, I don't give a fuck where we're at. I'm going to tell you, because I don't want to like hold on to that. Or if I'm like, hey, what you said, like, I don't necessarily know that I understood it. So can you elaborate more on that? Because like that did hurt my feelings, but maybe I'm misunderstanding, or maybe I'm projecting. So I will have a discussion with you wherever the fuck we're at, because I don't give a shit. It's something that I really struggled with. And what Caboose said was that those conversations are already vulnerable for him. So then doing them in public is even more vulnerable, which I will add, this is really cute, because then we had one of those conversations when we were out doing errands yesterday. And then he continued the conversation throughout the store. So he was like, because I was like, well, isn't that like a sense of like exposure therapy? Like, if they're hard for you at home, shouldn't you just do them in the most hard places, and then it gets less hard? Because I had that philosophy for lifting weights, that like I would always, before going to a CrossFit competition, do all the workouts with a heavier weight, so that way on game day it was easier.
Which, by the way, is crazy smart.
And I feel like you just do like, what's the hardest option you can do? Get good at that. And then the easier option, which is having a vulnerable conversation at home. And again, I don't personally understand that like place, because to me, vulnerable is vulnerable. What does it matter if you're out in public?
Yeah.
Because fuck, who's gonna, you're worried about people judging you? Who cares?
Totally.
Don't you love to be the person that's next to a couple that's having either a beautifully, like, I mean, that's literally why we're watching this show, is that we want to see people have vulnerable conversations.
Yeah, I want to see that live.
Yeah.
I think, so when we had this discussion, you asked me how I felt about it too. And I had told you that, like, yeah, for sure, I used to be one of those people who did not like fighting in public. Mind you, that's changed. One of my exes was not afraid to fight in public at all, which honestly worked. Love that. Were the fights justified? Not exactly. But were they entertaining for the people working at Buffalo Wild Wings? Absolutely.
And that's why you should do it.
Our servers were literally pretending to like organize straws hearing us fight. It was so fucking funny.
Bitch, I bet they were so entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. And I was happy to give them that. And, you know, It's nice to like be on the other side of things and just to be able to openly out and discuss it. And I also think that the more you push it down the line and ask for a better place, better time, as a kid who grew up in a household where I was never allowed to talk about my feelings, it's really easy for someone to be like, let's not talk about this here, as a means to just shut you down permanently. So that's a really tricky, slippery
Which
slope.
is exactly how I feel, because like that's like something that like I talked to him about yesterday, where I was like, but when you tell me not here, it's not like we get in the car and then we talk about it. You'll just never bring it up again.
You won't bring it up again. It's still my job to bring it up.
Then it's my job to circle back, and then you tell me like it's not the right time. So it is like, to me, dodging a bullet.
Would counter, and also not counter, but like I would also add to that and say like the point of being human is experiencing emotions right then and there. So that's on the same level as don't be happy right now.
Yes.
I know that you're at Disney World, but you should wait until we get home to be happy that we're at Disney World. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah. But I think, again, it's that, like, societal, like, emotional manipulation.
Totally.
You're only allowed to be, like, you're allowed to be happy in the moment, but you're not allowed to feel anything that isn't positive in the moment. And because all of that has to be suppressed. And then we wonder why people only show their best moments on social media, i.e. in public.
Yes. And I had told you, like, the reason why I wasn't like that before, though, is because culturally, in Asian culture, like, it is such a big deal how people perceive you out in public. Like, I remember, you know, I grew up with white friends because Reno is a very white town. And all my white friends would wear whatever they wanted to in Walmart. My best friend at the time would always wear PJs out in public, sweats, whatever.
That is the correct thing to wear at Walmart.
Yeah.
You're
literally going to fucking
comfy.
Walmart. Yeah, you're going to Walmart. It's not that big of a fucking deal. And like, you know, she wouldn't dress up to like go to Taco Bell through the drive-thru. Why would you? Right? And I was always a friend that like overdressed, but that's because culturally, like, I would get in so much trouble. I remember one time we were about to leave for errands and I went down in my PJs and my mom was like, "You're wearing that? No, you do not wear pajamas in public. Only white people do that." Specifically said that. And you are not white. You're not doing that. That's trashy. Like, you can't do that. And that's because, like, when you're out in public, in my household, you were meant to be the most successful version of yourself. And although I can appreciate, like, fashion, and I love the people who go all out and want to continuously be in their best selves, I think that should be a choice.
Yes.
I don't think that that should be a pressure. I don't think that that should be an obligation. I don't think that that should be like, I don't know, like, the second it doesn't become fun and it becomes a chore, stop doing it. Just don't.
I love dressing up. I love like wearing.
But that's what makes it special,
but
right?
Yeah, it's that like but like we just walk Guinness in our paint. We're recording this podcast in our paint clothes.
Lots of paint on the clothes. Our uniforms.
Yeah, these are our paint uniforms as we decorate our home.
Yep.
But I agree with that. When you said that unlocked me, like, that memory for me as well, that like my mom definitely yelled at me and was like, absolutely not. You don't wear that in my own public. And I think that's why, like, as I became an adult, I was like, pajamas in public. Yes, please. Thank you.
And I've had to
because I had to, like,
as an adult. And
like,
I love
that was my level of like pushing back on that and being like, oh no, fuck you. Like, don't tell me what to wear.
The other day before I went out and got sushi, my hair was still wet. And in my brain, I was like, oh my God, is it a bad thing to go out with wet hair in public because you're in a different country? And my brain immediately, I'm so glad that I've been working on inner narrative, was like, if people are going to judge you for that, fuck them.
Yes.
Who fucking cares? Are you sopping wet on the floor? No. It's not that big of a deal. Put your hair in a braid if it really makes you feel well, but like, don't wait until it dries. That's dumb. You're hungry. Go.
Oh, yeah. You were starving.
I'm
so proud of you for that. That's big growth.
It was very big growth for me. Yeah. Being out in public too, I think, like, the way I've been coaching, this has nothing to do with Love is Blind, but the way I've been coaching myself with like social anxiety and like also just like the nerves of like being in a different country and living here and like going out into public spaces, and like it's important to do that. And the way I've been settling my nerves is, if an average white guy can do it and act like he owns the fucking world, so can you, girl. So,
exactly. Mine is just the case of like, so Americans have such a like weird idea of they think that they're like the best people in the entire world. But I think of Americans as a very, like they're just really funny to me. So I'm leaning into that where like, I just get to do and say whatever I want because at the end of the day, I'm going to play up the American card that like at the end of like I did live there forever and I am incredibly American. And so I'm going to keep being like, hey, yeah, I'm an American. I'm so sorry. I don't know that. I'm American. And if you say that, then people are just like, oh, okay. So you're a foreigner. That makes sense. I'm going to play into that. So then like, it's okay. Like, I don't have to do things that are culturally, like, the best thing to do culturally because I'm not doing anything that harms anyone and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And if someone's like, hey, that's really disrespectful, then I would obviously be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I would genuinely be sorry. And I would learn from that. But this is a foreign country and I don't know. So if someone was like, just so you know, if you go out with like wet hair, but there are so many rules that I heard going like traveling that people are like, you can't do this and you can't do that.
Yeah, in Japan, like don't let any of your tattoos show.
Yeah. And then I was like, but
then you get there and there's people with tattoos.
Yes.
And
like, they're like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I'm like, but again, I'm not going to outright disrespect someone's culture. But I am also not of this culture. Yeah. So I'm allowed like leniency because I feel that way about non-Americans in America.
You just made me unlock something because Americans are not lenient about other people not understanding the cultural norms. That makes Americans feel like other people won't be. But in all reality, what's missing from that equation is compassion. Yeah. So because Americans are not compassionate towards other people being introduced into our society and our culture, we assume that other people are not going to be compassionate.
Yeah, and I've never had that because I'm like, but people know that you're trying your best. So that makes so much sense because English people, particularly when I was raised there, obviously culturally it has like changed to a certain degree because it has become more Americanized. But culturally, like it is that. Like I'm a big one of like, you came home and visited my family and they like most people find people of different cultures like awesome and cute and adorable, and the differences are what make them interesting.
I will say is now one of my core memories of being at Laura's house and them feeding me snacks and wine. That is one of my core memories.
Because imagine if you got to do that with someone.
Core memories, bro.
Of all of your favorite shit that you get to be like, you've never had this.
I had so much fun.
It's like, it is the same as like teaching a child things, but then having them be able to articulate it like an adult. It's amazing. So on that note, because I am dying to go pee. This is almost a 2-hour episode. That's A-okay. What was your win for the week?
My win for the week was going out and walking down to get sushi because, fun fact, the sushi here is very different. It is all self-serve. The idea that they have around sushi...
And is it the individual? No.
The idea and the concept they have around sushi is that it's grab and go. So you serve yourself, then you check out on the counter, and then you leave. So not a lot of sushi.
But it's not by like a roll.
No, it's by piece.
I don't like that.
Yeah, you get it by piece. Crazy, right?
I don't like that. That's
it would be
weird.
I would say like an American allergist nightmare. Because you're using the same tongs to grab all the shit.
So that means I can't have it because it's got ginger.
No.
Okay.
No. The ginger's separate, so you're good on that.
Oh, okay.
I got you. I scoped it out.
I got scared.
I scoped it out. They serve the ginger separately.
Okay.
I scoped it out for you. But anyways, that's my win for the week. What's your win for the week?
My win for the week is that we have signed the lease on the new shop, but we are not rushing in there to immediately get it done, but we are finishing some projects around the house first, so that way we are able to. Yes.
And with you breaking a cycle, that means I also get to break that cycle. So thank you for that.
Yeah, because it's really hard to not be like, okay, well, we just started paying rent, so we need to get in there. And then I had to think about the fact that like we have a 2-year lease on this place. Like that's like the minimum. And 1 week out of 2 years, like to be able to get other stuff going is not a big fucking deal because also it's my money. And like that idea
and
of
I want it now.
Well, it's it's my money that I'm spending. So if I want to just have that location secured, but I am not ready to physically be in that location to do all the work that it takes to like get it where I want it to be, then I can start in a couple days or a week and it's not a big fucking deal because at the end of the day, over the course of my whole life, I'm not going to be upset about a week or two. And like really like trying to think about like long term instead of this like very American mindset. And also, to be clear, this very Hispanic mindset that my entire value is based off of my work and what I'm doing.
Bailey's just sitting over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the American hustle culture is so like integrated with our idea of self-worth, and it's very nice to break away from that. So I applaud you. That's a great win for the week.
Thank you. I applaud you for going to get sushi. So, and on that note, we will see you guys back next week. We don't know what we're going to talk about, but if you do want to hear about the parent interactions, or if you have questions about Love is Blind,
I'm sure we'll have a follow-up episode after we watch the weddings and the reunion, because that's actually the Super Bowl, is the reunion for me. I love the reunion, so I'm so excited. But
yeah, we've conquered most of this season in about 3 days. It's been great. We have needed time to recharge and sit, because if you have painted a lot, you know that it hurts your fucking hand, and so you have to spend some time just not painting and not doing stuff with your hand.
It's mentally a lot too. Yeah. So
all right, y'all. Yep, we'll see you guys back next week. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, thank God I gotta pee.